You were the chosen one!
DeWitt Noble said, quote, "The chosen one trope can go kick rocks." Quote, "The chosen one trope gets criticized like a Yelp review. No mercy involved whatsoever. But I often noticed it's the writers who screw it up rather than the chosen one trope itself. Just to put it simply, the chosen one is a character. If the chosen one is treated like a character and not some benevolent god with unbreakable plot armor, then the hate for the trope ceases to exist in my eyes. The chosen one becomes like any other character, given as much love as is given to any other character. This chosen one should first of all have a flaw. Most flaws I see given to the chosen ones in fantasy books are often starting out as a lowly life. Maybe they start out as a farmer, or are the weakest or the least cool person in the group. Through some special augmentation, the farmer or the weakest, least cool person becomes the strongest and coolest person in the group. It's kinda sad that most writers give these chosen ones only physical flaws. When I say flaws, I'm talking about flaws that stem from within the chosen one. Flaws that hinder them like they would hinder any other character. Quick examples include greed, selfishness, power maniacy. How about if the chosen one has to overcome their flaws, their inner flaws, to become the chosen one? How about anything other than a farmer boy becoming a dragon slaying beast that can kick 50 men's ass? The reason why I think DeWitt Noble and many others in the writing community hate the chosen one is because they are bored of having characters with no substance. Becca Matt said, quote, "Romantic subplots get tiresome. Please just let us have a badass Jerry who doesn't need a partner." Quote, "The dreaded love triangle and the gloomy love interest are two things I very well understand why fantasy writers keep revisiting. When I was new to writing in the fantasy genre, my stories had no love whatsoever. They were completely dry of any love interests, and love triangles specifically were just a big no-no. But as I got older and my knowledge of the genre deepened, I started to understand why most writers settle for love triangles. You see, it's mainly because a love triangle really generates conflict. It just gets shit going, and especially through the middle section, often known as the saggy waist, more famously known as the saggy middle syndrome. Authors have to keep the audience engaged somehow. One easy way to do this is to set up a romantic interest in the first quarter of the story. The romance won't be happening in the first quarter because the plot of the story itself is engaging. But when the boost, as in the initial kick from the inciting incident, kinda dies off, authors are left stranded in the middle of a desert. A cheap way to get around this saggy middle syndrome is to have conflict from a love triangle, spice things up. If the audience has reached so far into the book, which truth be told, most people don't, then they must care about the characters. If not, then they must be somewhat interested in where the story could go. So introducing hot guy number 2 into the story will be a quick way to have maximum conflict, while at the same time kinda trudging the story into the final act. Once most stories reach the final act, if the story is not a romance story, you will notice that the love triangle is kinda forgotten about. It might be hinted at, but it's most likely limited to a background hum, nothing more. That's because the story can now kick into full gear towards the final line, using Bolt style. So while I still hate the love triangle and while I still think they're cheap, I can very much understand why authors are obsessed with them. They are just trying to move things along. Velvetic Games said, quote, "Too many fantasy stories or books hinge on being a big fantasy series. I think more should focus on just being a good self-contained story rather than a franchise." Quote, "The dreaded franchise. Many people have expressed their frustration on why everything has to be a bloody franchise. I mean, first of all, yes, true. Why the heck does everything have to be a bloody franchise? But also, there's no denying franchising is in right now for a reason. The main one is audience retention. Successful authors are successful because they have a consistent readership. One easy way to get consistent readers that care about your stories is to obviously have franchises. Franchise the heck out of everything. Most new epic fantasy is rarely a one book go. It's often 2, 3, 4, or if they keep selling well, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 20, 20, 40, blah, 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 blah. It's just safer. Publishers like authors who can retain audiences and keep them coming back for more. If you can do that, which franchising helps you with, it's a win-win. Publishers win, author wins, and readers win because they get to see where the story goes next. I'm more surprised that franchising didn't become the dominant method of distribution it is today much earlier. So yeah, readers are primarily why authors keep franchising. Francis Bergen said, quote, MacGuffins everywhere. I hate them so much. Quote, I don't hate MacGuffins entirely, but I can I can sense where Bergen's frustration is coming from. Lord of the Rings, which is one of my favorite fantasy books ever, is a yard sale of shining jewels and MacGuffins that conveniently get the characters out of most troubles. But I still enjoyed the story as a whole. It still had tension, and most of all, it still maintained stakes despite the rampant use of MacGuffins. I would say the problem Francis Bergen and others like him have with MacGuffins is often to do with how they are handled. Mainly, the MacGuffin shouldn't hinder the conflict of the story. What I like about the MacGuffins in Lord of the Rings is how they add conflict to the story rather than take it away. The entire quest is to deliver the ring. In other words, no, pay attention. The whole story, everything about it is brought forth by a MacGuffin. In other words, every conflict, every tension, every little drop of tension is financed by the ring. That's a MacGuffin right there. But it's not detrimental to the story. What's more is that the ring corrupts users. It tempts different characters and it transforms others to be hideous monsters. Here we have a whole story built on MacGuffins, but instead of being ruined by them, the story thrives with the MacGuffin. So yeah, the MacGuffin shouldn't be used to take away conflict from the story. So this has been Unpopular Fantasy Opinions from Twitter. Subscribe, like, and share this video with your friends if you have enjoyed it. Please help me out. I'm trying to grow my channel. Have a nice day and bye bye.